We are here now at the time of the winter solstice for 2022. And with the darkest night, we find that many are experiencing what is called the dark night of soul, right? Or the long night of soul. And it's a time when people are really navigating unfamiliar territory they're in. There's a lot of uncertainty. Life is changing, and there's not a lot of clarity with what to do and how to get through it. Why is this happening? So I'm going to share for this night a special gift called Mother Night. Now, our words have power. Our words have power. And when we speak in what I call soul speech or mythic speech, that engages the imagery, the symbols, these mythic motifs within these kind of stories, they awaken something inside of us. They present us the questions that are stalking us, waiting for us to ask, that will offer us new direction, give us new clarity, give us a sense of what it is we're here to lean into so we can move through this past the belly of the beast and begin our ascension back into life ongoing. So I'm going to share this with you called Mother Night. And then we're going to do what's called this reflective process where we bring out the hidden layers and these mythic motifs and the questions and the new directions, the new indigenous and ancestral frame of mind that will gift you a new sense of clarity with how to lean in, what to look for, what you're being invited to step into. Okay, so here we go. Mother Night, Mother Night, Mother Night. Winter solstice wraps you in her dark cloak of raven feathers and night flowers. Winter solstice wraps you in her dark cloak of raven feathers and night flowers. Perhaps you're cuddled close, whispering secrets to each other. Perhaps you are cuddled close, whispering secrets to each other. What if she wraps you in darkness? What if she wraps you in darkness so to show you the light you may have forgotten you carry? What if she wraps you in darkness to show you the light you may have forgotten you carry? What if her cloak stretches out and enshrouds the day so you may come close in, slow down, rest by the fire? What if her cloak stretches out and shrouds the day so you may come close in, slow down, and rest by the fire? What if darkness isn't night, but raven feathers, carrying dream dust that seeds what's ready to be dreamt through you? What if darkness isn't night, but raven feathers, carrying dream dust that seeds the dreaming to seed what's ready to be dreamt through you? What if you embrace the dark as a holy offering, as an invitation to compost down into your own sacrificial fodder, to feed the song you came here to sing? What if you embrace the dark as a holy offering, as an invitation to compost down into your own sacrificial fodder, to feed the song you came here to sing? Speak to the night, your lament, your dreamings, your brokenness. your poetry and stories trembling just beneath the surface of your being. Speak to the night your lament, your dreamings, your brokenness, your poetry and stories trembling just beneath the surface of your being. Let Mother Night wrap you in her raven feathered cloak, hold you, receive you, whisper secret knowledge that your dreamings may take flight. And in return, embrace her, receive her, give thanks. Hail, Mother Night. Hail, Mother Night. Feel into those words. Feel into those words and what they stir within you, what imagery and feelings may have been conjured within you through those words. There's a lot of invitations here. Feel into these. There's so many invitations in these imagery. Winter solstice wraps you in her dark cloak of raven feathers and night flowers. Perhaps you're cuddled close, whispering secrets to each other. Now, when we step through that threshold and enter that dark descent, it's kind of like a trap door, opens beneath us and we get swallowed down into this descent. And there's nothing sweet and there's nothing cuddly about the dark descent, right? It jars our nervous system. It traumatizes our heart and it can be scary. It can be scary. It causes a lot of anxiety, right? Because in these moments, we often lose a sense of direction. We lose the sense of knowing. There's the sense of uncertainty with what to do or how to move forward. And yet there's nothing to do but really be in it, to actually go through the process. Now, that may not sound like good news, but we're going to share how to lean in. For many, the dark descent, it sounds or feels more like this really dramatic end. And in our modern colonized world, we're not equipped for these moments, right? And we've been given a false story. We've been given a false story that just breaks us. And it's a false story that we're always supposed to be in some state of affluence. Right? Story we're always supposed to be moving forward, never back. An attachment to always be expanding. And so when we contract, when we descend, when we are broken down, and in today's world, we often feel a sense of shame, a sense of inadequacy. Something's wrong. We did something wrong. That doesn't feel good. And this is what our ancestors call being spellcast. Being spellcast. A fellow storyteller and mythologist, Martin Shaw, shares, bad storytelling casts spells. Bad storytelling casts spells. Good storytelling breaks spells. Now we can see through our colonized modern industrial world and through Christianity, there's been all these spells that have been projected onto us about how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to measure up. But no one can really measure up to them because they're outside of the principles of nature, which we are a part of. So let us break some spells. And that's the intention here with Mother Night. Mother Night is a way of breaking spells. So from an ancestral perspective, we are meant to descend. We're meant to be broken down, be broken open, to be forced to come close in with who we really are and what is important to us. From an indigenous perspective, we are all part of nature. And right now, here on winter solstice, we are in that darkest moment, the time all of life is withdrawing within itself. And so we too are meant to be crumbled down, return back to the fecund earth where new dreamings and new visions may bloom from us. But we have to compost down. See, from an ancestral indigenous perspective, these are not dark times. These are initiatory times. Initiatory times means beginning. To initiate is to begin. So initiatory time is a way of bringing something to an end, a way of life, a way of being, a way of thinking and doing, and having to step through these fires, which are burning away the excess and the things that no longer serve us, patterns, beliefs, stories, relationship, jobs, so we may step anew into something of what's ready to be dreamt through us. So these are not dark times. These are, in fact, initiatory times. The struggle, the pain, the fear, all that is the fire burning away all that's not part of the new dreaming. So we have to descend. See, one of the great activisms of our time is to restore the beauty, the honor and nobility in our times of grieving, to let our grief be beautiful, to let our descents be something that is honored for the courage and the necessity to draw from our inner selves to move through it. In these moments, we go through what we call the belly of the beast, is moments we go through profound transformation that gives us new life. So when we come into this soul speak, winter solstice wraps you in her dark cloak of raven feathers and night flowers. What we're doing here is we're acknowledging transformation is afoot, magic is afoot. There's something ceremonial and important happening for you. Right? That's an important distinction. That's an important distinction. Our descent doesn't happen to us. It happens for us. And when we continue with the soul speech, perhaps you are cuddled close, whispering secrets to each other. Perhaps you're cuddled close, whispering secrets to each other. So when we enter the dark descent and hard times, times of uncertainty, we are forced to come close in, to admit things to ourselves, to admit things to others, to admit things to spirit. And in that, we are also here to receive the whisperings that we haven't previously been paying attention to, that have been building up and becoming louder and louder. Right? And when we resist this kind of call and response in our descent, we suffer. Right? We don't want to listen. We just want to get through it. But the elders, these traditional elders, they share. Now you've now been invited into an inner hut. Right? Grow downward. Grow inward. Right? You're being forced awake. You're being forced awake. So don't rush going back to sleep. All your senses become so attuned. The edge is right there. You become awake. Don't go back to sleep. Listen. Receive. Receive. Embrace the cloak that now holds you close. Feel into that for a moment. Feel into. And we continue with the soul speech. What if she wraps you in darkness? What if she wraps you in darkness so to show you the light? What if she wraps you in darkness to show you the light you may have forgotten you carry? Now, the original clock, we told time, was a sundial. Right? The sun would come down, cast a shadow, and it would tell the time. It keeps track and organizes the movement of the day. But once the sun surrenders and gives itself over to the horizon, it loses its power. Right? It loses its power. It no longer works. Darkness removes its carefully outlined path. Now, in our own dark descent, we often have a sense of losing our own power. We even feel a sense of becoming inept in our own skills. And we're forced to see where we became dependent on powers outside of ourselves. And so we're here being invited to return back to our original power. So how do we tell time? How do we find our way when the sky is overcast and we're lost in the dark? Our ancestors knew. Our ancestors knew. They knew that the smell of the north side of trees is different. They knew the smell of the north side of trees is different, right? That's because in the northern hemispheres here, certain mosses grow on the north side of the tree, the moist side, away from the light. You can literally smell your way north. There's something really important here, right? That north is something that moves away from the light. So there's an old saying that says, in our deepest wounds is where we find our deepest medicine or our greatest gifts. It's in our wounds we find our greatest gifts, right? We find many try to stay to the light and they try to follow the light. But it's in our descent, it's in that dark where we find that north that keeps us on that edge that informs us how to move forward. So now you're in the forest and you can smell your way north, right? Now say you're hungry. Here in the Pacific Northwest, traditional elders, they knew that certain barks grow from the sunrise side of a tree. And when boiled with licorice fern and sweetened with the trailing wild raspberry, it makes a good tonic. Now that's useful knowledge, right? It's very practical, useful knowledge. Let's go back to the soul speech and see why this is important. What if she wraps you in darkness to show you the light? To show you the light you may have forgotten you carry. When we get too comfortable, compliant, complacent in our life, our sense of north, it lessens. Right? We lose a bit of our wild instincts. That edge, right? That edge which informs us and keeps us intact with how we feel called to be dreamt into the world. We begin to lose it when we lose our direction. In our dark descent, we're forced to pull out our inner compass and reattune to our personal north. We're brought back to basic instincts of what's important to us, right? And how we're being called to be dreamt into this life. Everything else gets stripped away. So you're being asked here, what do you really value? What do you really value? Well, value, we define value as, what are you willing? What are you going to invest your time and energy in order to gain something or keep it? Like, what are you going to act to gain or keep? That reflects what you value. That reflects what you value. That reflects and indicates what your true north is, right? But what we find is in our life, we tend to get hijacked. We are forced to start giving priority to things that aren't part of our true north. We're forced to begin to, that north starts to sway. We start to swerve away and we start giving importance to things that don't really nourish us. So when we enter this dark descent, we find that when life pulls the rug from under your feet, you are forced to revalue what to invest your time and energy in. You're being forced to revalue what you put your time and energy in. Where are you right now investing your time and energy, right, into people, activities, behaviors, patterns that may actually be taking away from you, depleting you? Where are you now being shown to focus in on? To restore a way of nourishing what you love so what you love can continue to nourish you. So again, what if she wraps you in darkness to show you the light you may have forgotten you carry? See, here we're discovering what is the light you carry. What is your true north? What are the values you wish to nourish? What is the true north that has always been stewarding you through your whole life? You go back and reflect on the path, you're going to find there has been a consistent north that has always been that which informs you how to move forward. How are you being asked? How is your north right now being asked to become a priority again? It's another way of asking. So let's continue on with the soul speech. What if her cloak stretches out and enshrouds the day, so you may come close in, slow down, and rest by the fire? For many times when we experience the dark descent, we are being forced to slow down, right? We have no choice. So we all have this tendency in this life to build more and more momentum. And once we reach a certain velocity, we're no longer receptive to the world. No longer receptive to the world. No longer we become blind to the beauty, the magic, the connections that are being offered us every day. And we become impatient when we have this velocity. We adopt a kind of privileged mindset and we forget to honor the subtle things, right? The everyday things that nourish us and support us in our ever ongoing pursuit to live. Sometimes our dark descent is merely an invitation to come back into relationship with the people, the land, the dreamings, right? All the things that support us. It's a way of humbling ourselves back into relatedness. It's a way of taking us off that momentum to come back into what is authentic and real for us. What is that for you? Let's continue the soul speech. What if darkness isn't night? What if darkness isn't night but raven's feathers carrying dream dust that seeds what's ready to be dreamt through you? What if darkness isn't night but raven feathers carrying dream dust that seeds what's ready to be dreamt through you? Our dark descents, they're always an invitation. A way again of coming close in to nourish the deeper dreamings within you, whether they're known to you or not. What if we embrace the descent? What if we embrace our struggle, our grief, our loss, and leaned into the invitations to change, to grow, to become unbound. So we may step into the dreaming that our current paradigm of self and the world is blocking us from growing into. And there's a saying, what you dream for yourself is too small for you. What you dream for yourself is too small for you. What is ready to be dreamt through you is far greater than what you can see. So what if you embrace the dark as a holy offering, as an invitation to compost down into your own sacrificial fodder to feed the song you came here to sing? What if you embrace the dark as a holy offering, as an invitation to compost down, become your own sacrifice, your own sacrificial food, right? To feed the song you came here to sing. A common theme in indigenous cultures, particularly in Africa, is there's this knowledge that we each come into this world with a song, and you are that song. There's a pygmy story, a very potent pygmy story. And it says, there was this village that lived in the jungle, and in the village there was a young girl. And one day she was out foraging for roots and other plants to bring back, when suddenly she heard the most beautiful song she had ever heard. She began to trail that sound through that thick underbrush, and it opened up, and there on a branch was a bird with the most marvelous colors she had ever seen, and it was singing that beautiful song that felt so familiar to her, like she knew it. A bird flew up to her, landed on her arm, and she carried it back to her village. And everyone gathered around to hear this beautiful song and see its marvelous colors. And suddenly, this magistrate, who was a foreigner, came running up and told everyone, close your ears, close your ears. Don't listen to its song. Don't look at its beauty. Everyone hide, or it'll put a spell on you. So everyone, they ran away. They went into their huts. They closed their doors. They closed their windows. And the magistrate, like, are you trying to hurt your friends and your family? And the young girl said, no, of course not. She was terrified. The magistrate says, well, come with me. I know what to do. They went in. They fashioned a cage made out of vine roots. They put the bird inside. They thatched together a mat, and they placed that mat over the cage so it would not be seen. And the magistrate say, no, whatever you do, don't listen to that song. Cast a spell on you, it could harm yourself and many other people. At first she heard the song and she would just ignore it until finally it fell silent. Then many, many years went by when suddenly she had this urge to clean out her hut. And as she was cleaning out, she began to hear that faint song. She's like, what is that song? So familiar. She trailed that song into the darkest part of her hut. Right. There she found this square kind of object. She brushed off the thick dust. There, she took off the mat, and there in the cage was the bird, barely alive. The colors had faded, the voice just crackling now. But when she saw it, the memory came back. Tears came down her eyes. She's like, I thought you were a dream. I couldn't believe you were real. She went out into the garden. She got some grubs and insects. She got some water, and she nourished the bird back to life. And in her evenings after work, she would spend time with the bird, and they would sing together. And as she sang the songs the birds sung, they entered her and filled her with a certain delight, a remembrance of why she was there. During the day, she began to skip around and start singing these songs. And people were like, where'd you hear this song? Eventually, she felt strong enough she can share, and she told the story. And everyone started to weep. Like, I remember finding a bird with a song, and the magistrate forced me to hide it. They all went back to their huts, and they searched into the darkest corners of their huts, and they found their birds. They nourished them back to life. And in the evening time, they began to gather around the fire and sing these songs, which brought back the memories. The magistrate got kicked out, sailed down the river. And that's the story. See, what we find, in the story is like we've all come into this world with a song, but through colonization and through Christianization, there's this sense of conformity. We're meant to conform into particular roles, into particular ways of being in the world. And if we don't fit into those roles, then that song gets shut off and we stuff it down in order to fit in order to sustain and live. But we're in a time now where spells are being broken. We're breaking spells. We're in a time where we are remembering and the songs are coming back to us. But for them to come back to us, we have to enter into that darkness. We have to break down and become our own sacrificial food in order to feed the song you're here to sing. So in this, again, we see how the dark, right? The dark descent is a way of just breaking open into a greater possibility. And instead of refusing it, resisting it, what if you leaned in? What if you spoke to it? Speak to the night your lament. Speak to the night your lament, your dreamings, your brokenness, your poetry and stories trembling just beneath the surface of your being. Let Mother Night wrap you in her raven feathered cloak, hold you, receive you, whisper secret knowledge that your dreamings may take flight. In return, embrace her, receive her, give her thanks. Hail, Mother Night. Hail, Mother Night. What we're leaning into here is from an ancestral perspective, our dark descents are times of great inner and outer transformation. We're being invited in where we stir what's in our bone memory. We reattune to what is our north and what is important to us. We reclaim the song we come here to sing. Rather than trying to get back to normal as fast as you can, let Mother Night embrace you. Speak to her your laments, right? Admit things. Receive her whisperings and her nudges. What are the new questions waiting for you to find that will offer you new clarity, direction, or new sense of self? Are woven in here in the sharing. So you can see you're not necessarily in dark times, but you are in these powerful mythic initiatory times. You're in an initiatory story. You're being invited to become unbound and step into a new paradigm of self. See, the thing is, there are many people who are lost in the world, but they don't know they're lost, right? Until we're in our descent, we never knew we were lost. And we have to be lost before we can be found. We have to be lost before we can be found. And that is the story and the sharing tonight for Mother Night and the Dark Descent. If you are experiencing the Dark Descent, if you would like to draw forth your own frame of reference, draw out the mythic themes, the stories, what are the questions that are stalking you, please reach out to me, connect with me. That's what I'm here to do, is to guide others through the Dark Descent and help them become initiated into the life ongoing that's ready to be dreamt through them. So please reach out. My website is chivitokoa.com. Look into the description here in the YouTube channel, and I would be honored to be of service to you.